How's it going? So basically the problem is, I'll show you what the problem is, right? We are trying to load a test JavaScript file, right? We're doing it through, like, so this page gets loaded through a server, all right? So you see, if we go to, okay, so you see, we're trying to roll this page HTML, right? It's not working because we need to go to our server and we need to add app.use express static and then folder where this so we want public folder, right? We want public folder. So the way to do that in here, because it's in a different file, we need to install path. So you just install npm path, npm I path, and then you can use this, load up the module, and then we do this. What was the file? So it will be, the code will be path dot resolve direction name. This is root, right? Now we want to go one level up because at the moment we're sitting in a server. Server is sitting in a server folder. So we want to get out of server folder. So now we are in slider. And now we want to uh, give the path of the folder where the HTML file is, which is going to be public in this case. It's very, very confusing. It's a little bit confusing. So like learn, I'm assuming you know how express static works. So you have to learn how path works. All right. It's a very important extension so you can manipulate URLs and how pathing works. All right. Okay. So now if we load our page, it will load, right? You see, it's loading. So I'm going to write it as a test page so you can see. This is test page. All right. So you see, if we refresh, this is test page. All right. So now here's the problem, okay? You see it's giving us the error, cannot access this path, blah, blah, blah. All right. This is the problem happens because the page, the JavaScript code is a client request. All right. So client request is going into, is sending HTTP request that is, there's no way to handle it, right? On a server side. Server simply does not have ability to handle this request. So we need to create this ability to handle this request. All right. So the way to do that is app get, like literally what this code says. You see, it says I cannot handle it because there's no get request, right? So we need to create a get request. So we do get, the path is going to be test.javascript. We do the usual request response. Now what we need to do, respond, send file, right? Because it's a file. Test.javascript is a file, all right? And this will go to name. Actually, I think we need to go, yeah, we're gonna need to go into, we need to do path resolve in here as well. So we're gonna have direction name. We need to go one level up again. So now we're sitting in slider, right? Okay. I think it's like this, right? And then we need to give the file, right? So it's going to be test the JavaScript. because basically commas in here, commas, they represent these things. When you're doing your pathing. So in this, in resolve syntax, commas are technically this, right? So that should technically work, right? Okay. So let's put something into test JavaScript. This has worked. Okay. So note where my JavaScript is in the root folder, right? So you see JavaScript sits inside the folder. So it's in root, all right? If this video gets more views, I will remake it. So otherwise, just write it in the comment and I'll explain it, okay? Because I don't want to spend like my channel. I'm not really developing you. I'm not really a YouTuber, so I don't really develop. So it could be confusing. But this, in theory, should work. Yeah. Okay, you see, it worked. So let's relocate. Let's reposition our test file into a JavaScript folder. So it's in root. Let's create JS folder. So it will hold all of our JavaScript files. I'll even call it JS files. Okay. Let's put this in here, right? So now this should no longer work. So we're gonna save this. This should no longer work. That's my alarm. My apologies. HTML. Oh shit! Did I just move my? Okay, so now this should no longer work. Yes. Okay. So you see, this is no longer working because we repositioned our file, right? All right. So now we need to. So we're in direction name. Direction name is server folder server. So we went one level up. Now we need to go into JS files, right? So this will be JS files, right? And then in JS files, we're taking this. Let's see. Yeah, it worked. Okay. So there it is. Like alternatively, the easiest way to do it, if you don't want to create a GET request, you can just do this. You see where test HTML is, you just put it into the public folder, and then this will work as well. So we're going to remove the GET request, and then this in theory should work as well, because I tested a couple of times and it definitely works. Yeah, you see it's working. Honestly, to be honest with you, it's very strange why, for example, this, like if you move test to JS file, right? Like for CSS it works, but for JavaScript files it doesn't. So this indicates one level up, right? We go one level up, we go JS files and then test. And then in here we do test.javascript, right? This does not work for some reason. Yeah, you see, boom, straight away error. I think this is because yeah, but like, how is test JavaScript? How is this not a client request? That's my question. Do you know what I mean? So I put it into public. Oh, wait. Maybe it's because of this. Oh, yeah. Because if you have this, it can serve static files, and JavaScript is a static file. So when it sends a request, it automatically, yeah, yeah. The problem is this: if we remove this, then oh, hold on a sec. But that means in theory, we should be able to do this then. In theory, right? Public dash JS files, right? In theory, if my theory is correct, this should work. So now we point this to, we should point this to JS files, this test.javascript, right? Let's see. No, it still doesn't work. In theory, it should work. I think the problem is I don't know how to work with this thing. I'm pretty sure there should be a way to do it. Um, Let me just pause this video for a second. Let me come back 1 second. Okay, so I figured out how it works. All right. So you just basically create a folder, and then you just like you see JavaScript files, and then in here there is a file. We can remove this. I don't need this. Okay. So this is your folder, and you allow static. And then in your test, you just write test JavaScript, and that's it, and it works. You see? And that was our test JavaScript. So the reason why it works is because of this. This is technically same as writing an app GET request for serving static files. Yeah, so this code basically is identical to writing this code here. You see, it's like it's almost identical code. Only this is more kind of generic, and it works for kind of like an entire folder. So you don't have to write get request for every single file. You just write it one time, and it works for every single file that's going to be inside the folder. All right. So that's it. Take care.